But having you here, I'm so excited. I can't control myself. The thing is, I've pivoted my career, right? So I'm now doing sales and leadership coaching. And one of the things that I really love doing is interviewing leaders like you. It's really touched my career. I mean, I didn't report to you directly, I didn't really work with you closely, but every time I see you, and I know when I wanted to leave Ruckus, I called
Yeah.
you. You were
Yeah.
always a mentor to me, and I really admire how you work with your team. So that's why I said, Bart, you're the big leader now in Ruckus. Can you come over and talk to me and inspire all my connections and my network on a great sales leadership? And obviously, I'm still in love with Ruckus, so that's why.
Well, thanks, Ren. And I'll tell you, you had a big impact on the Ruckus business and on me personally, because your spirit and your energy that you brought to the business every day is very infectious. And I think people like me feed off that. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk with you about anything you'd like to talk about today.
Okay, thank you. So you know, I'm really passionate about sales, and in my whole career, there's a bit of ups and downs because, unfortunately, because sales is such a high pressure game,
Yeah.
sometimes we kind of lose ourselves. And one of my purpose now is to help sales teams and sales leaders become really high performing and create value for their clients, but still don't forget, the values at the back. Being they use the word psychologically safe companies right now, but I guess it's a emotional intelligence, right?
Sure.
So my first question to you is, what is a great sales leader for you, and what's your leadership style in that sense?
Sure. Well, two different questions there. I'll take the first one. In sales, results are sort of binary, right? It's very discrete and measurable how you gauge success. And so the best sales leaders are the ones that drive great results. And there's lots of different leadership qualities and styles that can get you there, right? And I've been very fortunate to work under very strong leaders who've all had maybe a very different style, but the one thing they all had in common is they were very goal oriented and they drove the team to achieve really high and impactful results, right? And so I think when I think about my own leadership style, I like to lead with empathy, right? And I like to empower my teams. I think it's really important that you set very clear and discrete goals. I tend to be fairly hands-on. I like to show what success looks like rather than tell you how to do the job. Kind of show you what my expectations are, and then as a team we come together and set very clear and measurable goals, and then drive an execution plan to overachieve them. So it really is empowering the team to do their best work, setting clear guidance and goals that are tough but achievable, and leading by example, right? Demonstrating what success looks like, what my expectations are for leading a business with very high integrity, and then kind of getting out of the way and letting the team do their best work.
So just on that, so how do you show it? Like, just an example, like.
Yeah, well, a couple different ways. I mean, there's actually getting in and doing it, right? So, we can get into kind of the career progression over the course of this conversation, but I wasn't always in sales, right? I've had a pretty diverse career, and sales was kind of a stop along the journey, but it's one that I very much enjoyed and became engrossed with for a number of years. And so I had the opportunity before I was a sales leader to be alongside, people that had been selling for many years that I learned from and learned a great deal from, and leaders that had made careers out of selling and sales leadership. And so, as I absorbed those lessons and applied them to my own business, and then eventually was a sales leader myself, I felt like I could be in a position to either, paint a vision of what success looks like and lead the team and empower the team to get there, or actually get in and do the hard work with the team, so that they can visualize through that effort what success looks like for themselves. So when I talk about sort of leading by example, it's either that, right? Either painting a vision of what success looks like so the team can see how to get there, or just getting in and doing it with them, and letting them see what success looks like.
So do you go out on sales calls and show the guys, hey, this is how, you know,
It's the best part of the business, right? The notion of a sales call has changed a little bit, by the way, and
no.
for better and worse, right? I
Question.
mean, I love being out in the field. I love being with our partners. There's nothing, there's no place that I learn more than being out with the customers and hearing what their problems are, and thinking through with our teams, both in the product and R&D side, and from a go-to-market perspective, how to best address them and solve them and grow the business. So yeah, I think that's a big part still of a leader's job, is to get out in the field with the team and hear firsthand what the team is experiencing day to day, what the partners are experiencing day to day, and what the big challenges are faced, because that informs your strategy, and that's where you're getting direct feedback. And then yeah, that is an opportunity for your own team to kind of see how you want to position your business, or how you want to position a solution, or how to demonstrate empathy with a customer, or how to talk through a really challenging, difficult conversation in a way that is transparent and has very high integrity, but sets very clear expectations with the customers. I think one of the things you find is, when you're further away from the action in the field, or the front lines, it's much, much harder in order to understand where your risks are in your business, and much harder to empower the team to do their best work if you're sort of disconnected from the reality on the ground. So absolutely, I still go on sales calls. I get to do a lot more of them because many of them happen to be virtual. But that's where I find, I do the most learning, and in the best position to kind of lead the team through, good times or challenging times.
Yeah, it's one of my follow-up questions, because as I've spoken to a lot of sales leaders and the sales professionals right now, especially when the solution is more complex or needs some thought, like brainstorming type, it's so hard to grab a client and, hey, let's have coffee, or let's do this, let's have a chat. And then I remember when I was with Ruckus, I don't know if I was with the other Ruckus guys from the US, but I think I was with an engineer, and we were having coffee, and he just wrote on a napkin how he wanted to do, the new software in the cloud. And these things doesn't happen anymore. So in a virtual sense, what are your best practices that are working for you? Because I think that's one of the challenges now. How do you grab a client, have real good conversations? Like every time you go into a Teams or a Zoom, there's an agenda, right?
Yeah.
So how do you guys finding it?
You're right. I think as everybody moves remote, you have to find ways to replace the sort of ad hoc, off the cuff discussion where sometimes you draw the most inspiration, right? And I think there's some tools available that enable that. I mean, you can ping somebody on the chat and say, "Hey, let's catch up real quick." So you've got to kind of make room in your day for that. I think as I think about how to structure where I spend my time, you have to create the space in your life to have those kind of free form, ad hoc discussions that are not structured by an agenda, because I think those are some of the most creative moments. And it is an adjustment, right? You actually have to consider that when you're laying out your calendar and how you're going to run your day, right? So it is different, but I think there are tools and strategies that can help you overcome the realities of kind of the virtual world that we're in right now.
That's a good one. I think that's what you said, Bart. It's really being very intentional in just putting those notes and say, "Hey, remember your client." And yeah, I think that's one of the challenges they're having. I know some of the teams here, they send some, like they would have virtual drinks in the afternoon, and they're gonna send some stuff to the clients, right? Just to be creative.
Yeah, no, we did a lot of that, particularly early on when we were adjusting to this. I think there was, first of all, it was hard lockdown in the beginning, right? So, not only were you thrust into this remote work environment, but you were also, stuck at home, right? So you're trying to replace what you did outside your home or in the office virtually. So we did a lot of the happy hours early on. I think as people got more comfortable in the remote environment, and then we were able to leave our homes
Yeah, yeah,
more freely and do things outside. Then some of that was lost. But as I think as we return to work in some form or another, and lockdowns are mostly ending around the world, I
mm,
think people are really going to want to get out and travel again and be face to face and see each other. And I think you'll start getting a lot more of that, camaraderie that we enjoyed before all of this.
yeah, yeah. Hooray for sales conference, right?
Yeah,
That's
actually,
good to talk to you. Sales conference.
we're doing our virtual sales conference this week. We had planned to do it live, but I think in light of everything that happened through Christmas and leading up to New Year's, the responsible thing was to do it virtual one more year. We will be bringing back the Big Dogs Conference, though, in March. We're doing a live event in North America, so that's very exciting. And like I said, I think people are really thrilled to have the opportunity to get out and come down to Austin, Texas, and listen to the great Ruckus story and the broader Comscope story, and listen to live music and have a little live fun again.
That's awesome. That's a good segue, actually. So, what's the well? It's been a while, right? So
Yeah,
obviously, I've always been a Ruckus fan. Still
yeah.
have Bart in the house, but it's been really old. I have to call Matt and ask for an upgrade. So, what's I know you have so many exciting stuff, more
Yeah.
than Wi-Fi. What's the fearless forecast of Mr. Bart Giordano?
Well, Ruckus as a business has changed a lot over time, right? When I started in the business, and when you were here, we were Ruckus Wireless. We did really great Wi-Fi. Since that time, we've expanded the portfolio dramatically, right? We're a full-fledged networking business now. And while, really great Wi-Fi and now switching platforms are kind of core and fundamental to our portfolio, increasingly, we're delivering a lot of over-the-top services, things like unified management, device and user onboarding. We've got a really fantastic AI and machine learning analytics platform. We support IoT very broadly across the portfolio. And over the horizon, right, as you think about the major trends in networking, lots of focus on automation, lots of focus on new spectrum coming into the enterprise, whether that is new Wi-Fi spectrum like 6 gigahertz or even cellular spectrum, whether that's lightly licensed or coordinated shared spectrum like CBRS in the US, or even licensed spectrum and 5G coming in for private networks. So I think, just in terms of major technology trends that we're following, the last 20 years, it was kind of like software eating everything. The next 20 years are going to be AI and machine learning eating everything. And we're moving beyond the realm of like 2D information systems now to this virtual metaverse with augmented or virtual reality, or what they collectively call XR now. And I think that really is going to pave the way for even more robust connectivity in the home or in the enterprise, or even in our communities as these use cases evolve.
That's crazy. Like so much broader than the last. I guess it's been almost a decade, not probably 8 years. But that's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm still cynical about metaverse, Bart. Maybe I'm just too old. I'm just like thinking, what am I gonna go there? I don't know, crypto. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So
I'm with you on that, right? And I think the whole all of the momentum behind kind of Web3 and all these different technologies, whether it's the blockchain and crypto and the metaverse that play into it. It's kind of hard to visualize what that's going to look like and what the impact is. But, 20 years ago, none of us carried a phone around in our pocket, right? And, now everybody has one in the last 10 years. And you kind of manage your whole life through it, right? And are connected to everything. So it's kind of hard to see over the horizon, but there's certainly very disruptive technologies that now are beginning to emerge, and people are figuring out what the right applications will be. Could be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but certainly it's going to have a dramatic impact on all our lives.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think I'm on the fence. Like, I see, people investing in this crypto and then Web3, and you look like at the stocks and like, I'm just like sitting. For that, I'm sitting. I'm not saying no. I'm just like, okay, be your first follower, and I'm gonna look at the back at the moment. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about quite a sensitive topic on diversity.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. And it's interesting because I'm on the other side of this diversity thing. And then I realized there's more to it than being women and ethnicity, right? So
Sure.
I started my career in the Philippines, but I've always been with global companies like Alcatel-Lucent, and then obviously I went to Ruckus. Um, People are always saying, okay, you need to give preferences to women because da 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 da. And I've always said, well, not really, because as a company and as a boss, you look at the people who will do the job better.
Sure.
And that was like a long time ago when I was really young. And I realized as I go through it all, it's not really about diversity on being a woman or a minority, but it's really diversity on the thinking, like on the
Absolutely.
and the culture. So that was, it took me a while, Bart. It took me like 3 to 4 years.
Well, but I think you can. I think both things can be true, right? I think we can recognize that there have been populations in the workforce and more broadly in society that are underrepresented in lots of different ways, right? And we can acknowledge that, and we can look for ways as businesses and more broadly in society to address that. And that's good, and we should. On the other hand, you hit on something very important, right? That the best teams I've ever been part of are comprised of people from lots of different backgrounds and lots of different cultures and different genders and all different walks of life. Your lived experience, the way you were raised, the family you grew up in, the part of the world where you matured and learned is going to influence your approach to problem solving. And so the most creative teams have people that come from a wide range of backgrounds, and to your earlier point, all have diversity of thought, right? It just so happens, though, that the way you get diversity of thought is to build teams that come from those different cultures, right? And maybe different ethnicities and different countries and different parts of the world. So whether you do that deliberately or not, if you're committed to building the best teams and ones with the best cultures and that operate at the highest levels, then naturally you're going to have teams of people that look different and talk different and come from very varying backgrounds. And that's, in my experience, how teams are the most successful.
Nice. Okay, you kind of answered my question without me asking the question because you're very fast. So are you actually actively pursuing diversity? Some companies, they kind of have a quota, and that's where I don't understand it. They would have a quota, but how do you measure that? In New Zealand, I just realized that a few years ago there was a paper that there's more mark than women CEO in NZ, right? But now this year, the CEO of Microsoft in New Zealand is a woman. Spark is a woman. There's several. In one of the distributors here that I am working with as well, the CEO and Telar, is a woman and very progressive. So I think we've come a long way. But as what I've said, I didn't want it to be like, okay, you're a woman, you're special. It's not like that. It's more of the cognitive thinking and the cultural differences of ethnicity that we have, which you spoke about.
Yeah, but I think it's very important to be aware of diversity or lack of diversity in an organization. But to your earlier point, me personally, I think just in general, people want to operate their business in a meritocracy and give the right positions to the right people with the right skills who are going to perform the best. Now, if you look at the IT industry historically, it's been largely dominated by men, and
Yeah.
I think that is changing now. I know if you look here in the U.S., you can see that universities are dominated by women now, and women are pursuing advanced degrees and technical degrees at a very high pace, even outpacing men in that industry. So, you know, um, again, awareness about where you are from a diversity standpoint is very important. But I don't think that it's right to be compromising on standards, and I don't think we have to, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're committed to finding the best people for the job, and you're committed to building teams from very diverse backgrounds, because you believe that's the most creative way to build high performing teams that know how to solve problems, then naturally you're going to have diverse organizations.
Yeah, yeah, agree. And you touched a point there on the technical background, Bart. I think women didn't was not in technology because the at the grassroots level, the girls weren't encouraged to do maths or engineering, and that's where I think it kind of started. And because of now of AI and a lot of more exciting, really, I wouldn't say soft for a lack of word, like more on the creative side. I think women now, the younger generation is saying, "Oh, okay, I think I like math. I think I like physics," and I guess there's
Yeah.
lots more support in coding and technology. And then when you have that level, then of course the the numbers will increase in technology companies for women.
Well, I think, as a society, we've done a better job the last several years of promoting opportunities for women in STEM, right? And
Yes.
creating an environment where it's not just for boys or it's not just for men. And I personally have a high appreciation for that, given, I have a strong technical background, and I'm raising three daughters that I hope will consider all types of opportunities for them, whether they are STEM related or otherwise, right? Of course, want my children to have equal opportunity in the workplace and to be able to pursue whatever career is going to fulfill them and give them happiness. So, we still have a ways to go, certainly, but I think we're making great strides, and it really does come down to leaders in all industries being committed, and I think we'll continue to improve over time.
Yeah, and then I think the last one of my last like maybe comment, um, in a workplace as well, it really helps to have someone like a boss and a mentor and a manager to really support us in the workplace. Like obviously on my personal life, I'm supported, but also on the other side of the fence, right? I think all of my career, I've always, and this is a key trait that I've seen, Bart. All of the leaders, the male leaders that really supported me, there's always a amazing, ferocious woman with them. I'm sorry, but I'm just like, so Pat used to be my boss. His wife is like a high street lawyer. And then my other boss in Alcatel, all of them, because I know the wife as well, all of them are really supported by these women who cares of supporting, the people they're encouraging to go up the
You
chain.
can you can add me to that list. I have
Yes,
an incredibly supportive,
totally.
amazing wife who, you know, I get my motivation from, and certainly has been a bedrock for me as I've advanced my career, and that I learn from every day. So yeah, the pattern you've noticed continues.
Awesome. And then if you're starting in your career, what would be your advice, biggest advice, the most important, if there is one, the most important strength or thing that you need to have to go up that corporate career and be a leader?
I think for me, it was try lots of different things, right? I set out and growing up, and I was always convinced that I was somehow going to be a fighter pilot, right? I mean, that was what I saw Top Gun, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and I wanted to be
You look like Tom
Tom
Cruise, right?
Tom Cruise in the F-14. And somewhere along the line in high school, I realized that a military career wasn't for me, and I was always very passionate about technology and loved math and science. And so, I started off my college career in aeronautical engineering, right? So I thought, well, I'm really passionate about airplanes and aviation, and I love tech. So this engineering discipline would be fantastic for me. And as I got into the first year curriculum and started thinking about where the opportunities would be. I knew that I would have to probably move to places that I might not want to live and where I didn't have family. And I took a Fortran programming class as part of that curriculum, and I just fell in love with it, right? And I wanted suddenly to be a programmer and know everything about programming. And I switched majors to computer engineering and, absorbed myself in the world of software design and development. And that was, for 10 years, really what I wanted to do. And I thought, this is going to be my career. I'm going to be an engineer, and I love embedded systems and platforms. And I was working at Cisco solving all sorts of really cool networking and security problems. And then I woke up one day and said, I'm not sure sitting in a cube writing code 10 hours a day and dreaming about bugs and all these tough challenges I was facing is what I want to do anymore. And, long story short, I kind of pivoted my career then to getting into more marketing and product and business development type roles. And someday someone decided it'd be good for me to lead a big sales organization. And finally I'm leading a business. So don't get wedded to one idea or one thing. I think, careers have many twists and turns. And, the biggest advice I could give anybody starting out is don't think what you're doing today has to be what you do forever. I think trying different things, certainly aligned with your skills and your passion, if that's possible, is really important. But your path can take many, many different branches, right? And for me, that experience that I had trying all those different things really put me in a great position to get where I want to be, which is managing a large, complex tech business, because I've kind of done all the different roles within it and seen it from all different perspectives. And so, that's a good perspective to have as you're starting out, because you can think, gosh, here I am, 17, 18 years old, and I'm expected to decide what I want to do the rest of my life. Absolutely not, right? Build some foundational skills, start to build your professional network, and then you'll have lots of different options to try different things that will ultimately result in a fantastic career.
Congratulations, Bart, and you so deserve that to lead that role. I thought that was my last question, but actually I have two. I'm sorry, you have to give me
No,
two questions. I'm really proud of your leadership. The first one is there's this great escape or great resignation happening, I think, in
yeah,
America, right? Like more so at your end. And I keep on saying, well, I have my own millennials as well. Well, they're not in corporate, they're kind of in corporate, software developer and media advertising. And they're thinking of doing their own stuff, right?
hmm
And my advice was, well, I've actually learned so much in corporate. I've met so many people. I learned so many skills that I wouldn't be able to set up my own business right now, because I do have an export business as well, which, just really what I learned from business. And so my advice to them is take time, build your competencies and skills in corporate. There seems to be something happening in the US. What's your thoughts on this great resignation thing?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I think there's a lot of people just leaving the workforce and deciding they don't want to work anymore, or certainly don't want to work in the structured way that we have set up many jobs, right? And because of technology and because of the gig economy, I think a lot of people are able to structure their working time and lives just differently than how we've organized that prior to the pandemic. And some of that was happening already, but
Mhm.
certainly it was accelerated out of necessity as we went into lockdowns and remote work and distance learning and all of that. Secondly, right, you're no longer bound to a location of where a job is in many cases. And because we're a lot more flexible about where you work and how you work and when you work, I think it's created a lot of mobility.
Yeah.
So, as a business leader, that's challenging, right? Because you want people to invest in your business and remain there a long time, and it's really incumbent upon leaders to give people that sense of purpose where they feel like they're doing something that is fulfilling and they get charged up about every day that they come and bring their best effort. But on the other hand, I think it's great that there's lots of opportunity out there for people to explore taking their business in or their professional career in a different direction. I would. People ask me a lot about the different jobs I've had, and I tend to stay in jobs maybe longer than other people in the tech industry. It seems like people hop around quite a bit
Yeah.
these days. But if you begin feeling like you're in a job that is not fulfilling you, get out of it and go do something else. We spend so much time at work and putting effort towards our career that you shouldn't waste any minute of it, right? So if you start waking up and feeling unenthused about what you're doing, it's time to get a new role at your company. It's time to have a discussion with your manager, or it's time to go and do something else, right? And I joke with people. I've had that feeling 4 times in my career, and I'm on my fifth job, right? So, uh,
Yeah.
and I lament the fact that there was a few jobs where I stayed with that feeling a little bit too long, right? And you end up kind of resenting what's been a great arc on your career. So you got to recognize that feeling, and then you have to sometimes make a tough choice to find something else that's going to be more fulfilling and better aligned with your goals and ambitions, and it's going to get you motivated and get you that drive again.
Yeah, great advice. So the last one is, it's a situational question. I
Hmm.
want to hear your thought, because one of the things that really worked well for me, Bart, in my career is my ability to network with people and talk
Yeah,
to. But I realized when I left corporate that was networking wasn't easy for a lot of people,
yeah,
and I was like, oh, really? So I was like, oh, okay, I realized that. And, I moved countries, I moved companies, and that's because of all of the great leaders, great networks that I had. So if, for example, you're in a sales conference, which is going to happen in March, and then you have this very young salesperson in another country,
hmm,
networking event, it can be really polarizing, and it can be really like, oh my god, there's too many people, and maybe it's not going to be their first language as well, like English.
sure.
So what would be your advice to this is one of your kid in Ruckus, this is
Yeah.
one of your sales, you want to encourage them to network, talk to you as well. What would be your advice to them so they can have the courage to be there and take advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, beyond your experience and what you've done or what your ambition is, the most important career asset you have is your network, right? So it's important that you invest time in that network and building it and growing it, because I can tell you from personal experience, um, I've never been I've never applied for a job or reached out to a recruiter where I didn't know anybody and got a job that way. Every job I've ever got and every opportunity I've ever had has been because of my professional network. So my advice to that young, early career person is, find the confidence to go and start building your network, because that network largely will dictate how your career progresses, right? The people you meet, the influence they have, the mentorship you get from them is really invaluable in terms of evolving your career, or having people to ask advice when you're, in a salary negotiation for the first time, or struggling with a big career decision. So, find the confidence to approach people, even, above your level, or when, you feel it may be out of place. I think those professional experiences and conversations and relationships are worth, as much, if not more, than any experience you bring to the table. Because ultimately, if you want to make a big change in your career, like I've done, or try different things, it's going to be people in your network that rely less on the experience you have and the relevance to that new thing you want to try, and more on the raw skills and abilities that they know you have based on your personal relationship. And that's been a really successful strategy for me. And, I try to recognize those skills in people from my past, in my career, that I've known, as I think about, elevating new leaders in my own business today.
That's so awesome. And you hear that, folks? New salespeople, your big boss is saying, come on, network. And I think it's really, really important having that networking mindset, and be confident and courageous. Really well. Thank you so much, Bart, for your time. I'm really, really grateful for you to take this time out.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful that you reached out and that we're reconnected. I'm really proud of how you've evolved your career, and I wish you the best of luck on this platform. I know you're helping a lot of people, which is something to really be proud of. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bart.